Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Made in 280 pieces in stainless steel, this Roger Dubuis Easy Diver Sports Activity Watch Tourbillon represents an unusual combination of big, bold, and boisterous style with very traditional standards of haute horlogerie finish and engineering. This watch is completely unique. Taking a look at the size, you can see it's huge, as was the fashion in the early 2000s when this design originated. 48 millimeters in stainless steel is the diameter, and I'm going to propose that it wears even larger than that. It's 14.9 millimeters thick, which isn't terribly thick, to be perfectly honest, but 60.4 millimeters across the wrist is the lug-to-lug dimension, meaning I'm going to throw this on my wrist for comic value only, but also so you can gauge scale. This watch is huge. It makes a big pilot look like a medium pilot, and to be perfectly honest, a Rolex Deep Sea looks like a Datejust alongside this thing. If you've got that big wrist and a taste for audacity, this is the watch for you. Now, as you can see, it really isn't that thick, and that's probably its standout feature from a dimensional standpoint, alongside the pure gigantic profile across the wrist. There are not many 60 mil lug-to-lug watches out there, but this is one of them. Now, Roger Dubuis, realizing that its watch was huge, decided that a 3-point of contact strap case interface was necessary. So we have a bar that, as you can see, is held in place by substantial screws, and that retains the strap. There's a little carbon fiber end piece because more is better, and it integrates the strap with the case, so there's no daylight visible between strap and case. The strap itself is as massive as the watch. You can see it's very thick. This is never going to tear. We have a brand new Roger Dubuis factory strap. This is uncut. We will cut it for you and size it to suit when you buy the watch. We have a single fold deployant clasp, and you can see that it is the Easy Diver, and it has a twin trigger release system. You can also see that it's nicely made. Interior details such as a recurring RD motif, the name of the brand, and 3 divots for micro-sizing give you options, both aesthetic and ergonomic. Now, the watch is very impressive in profile. As you can see, more is more. That idea of architect Robert Venturi that we need to learn from Las Vegas. Well, Roger Dubuis, under designer Carlos Diaz, certainly did that. You can see that the lugs are polished on their top. They have recesses that have been stuffed with little pieces of carbon fiber. The mid-case is satinated, and as you can see, fairly complex in its form. You can just barely make out the profile of the old-school Roger Dubuis sympathie in the design of this case. And yes, that's where it comes from, but it's quite a departure. As you can see, we have an enormous screw-down crown. The watch is 300 meters water resistant, but because we have satin, we also need polish, because again, more is more. You can see that there is a polished bevel that runs all the way around the case, and then oddly, there's a satin finished component barely visible peeking out at the 4 corners, so lots of detail here. We have a bezel that's actually a pleasure to use, and it sounds great. Have a listen. 120 click, very crisp and precise. You can fairly easily line up the index with the minute hand, but keep in mind there is no luminescent index on the bezel, so you will need light to use this bezel as a timing instrument. Now, I better give you a loom shot here because it's not something you generally expect on Geneva Hallmark watches, but this is a rare Geneva Hallmark Flying Tourbillon sports watch, so you can see it is actually quite well loomed. Now, the dial is somewhere between champagne and salmon, and it has a lovely golden sunburst. It also has a couple of radial lines, or rayons, that break up concentric sectors radiating out to the edge, where we have a calibration that allows you to more easily read minutes. Now, we have all applique rhodium-plated indices, and then we have blued hands at center. Of course, we have the name of the brand, the Flying Tourbillon, and it is a Celtic cross. So a lot of folks ask, what's the difference between the Roger Dubuis cross and the Vacheron cross? Vacheron uses a Maltese cross, whereas this is a tri-spoke Celtic cross, and it is a Flying Tourbillon, as there's no upper bridge to obscure the view, so you get the full benefit of that for which you've paid. You can see it features a blued component that acts as a fine adjustment mechanism, and then the entire tourbillon cage has been beveled inside and outside and then black polished on its top, which is deeply impressive. It is a 1-minute tourbillon beating away at 21,600 vibrations per hour, and this 19-joule Roger Dubuis proprietary caliber RD02 has a 60-hour manually wound power reserve. Now, this is the weirdest part of the watch. I've often opined that more brands should acknowledge that 300 meters on a dive watch is not 1,000 feet. It's about 984.252 feet. Here, Roger Dubuis equates 300 meters with 900 feet, which is off by a much greater margin than 300 equated to 1,000. It's off by dozens of feet, 84.252 to be precise. So that's a little bit weird. Clearly, someone forgot their conversion factors, but it's part of the charm of the watch. Nothing about this timepiece is conventional. You can see on the reverse of the case, and they remind you, because the Geneva hallmark's actually hidden underneath the edge of the case back, but it is a Geneva hallmark movement. The bevels are a mile wide. The Geneva waves are actually beautifully narrow. The stripes are laid down closely spaced, which I really like, and then all of the jewel and screw countersinks have been polished. Satination on all the wheels, from the ratchet wheel all the way down to the tourbillon, and we have lovely black polished screw heads that have chamfered slots in circumference. You can see individual numbering out of the 280 in this limited edition, and things get weirder. You can see it says "just for friends," and that's obviously a reference to the fact that the designs of founding partner Carlos Diaz, who co-founded the brand with Dubuis, they were always idiosyncratic. So he designed those watches just for friends who were into this. But that's not the weird part. This is. It says 300 meters, 990 feet on the case back, and then on the dial side, it says 300 meters, 900 feet. So I guess we're going to go with the case back because it's closer, though the big error is going to be front and center every time you wear the watch. I consider this watch to be wonderfully idiosyncratic for that reason. This thing is just flat out amazing, strange, weird, and wonderful for it. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.